So, what do you guys think the current market conditions are like for sellers in Massachusetts and Connecticut?
I think that the sellers have got the upper hand right now. Their buyers are giving up inspections. They're doing appraisal gap on their offers. I think that the sellers just got the upper hand.
It's an interesting market and an interesting dynamic in the sense that the inventory is low. So of course, in a low inventory market, it would appear that you would have a traditional seller's market. But on the flip side, that the interest rates are also higher than what has been typical over the last 10 years or so. Yet the buyers are still fighting over homes. So there are many buyers that are still on the fence because of affordability, yet their sellers are still getting multiple offers at the same time. So what I'm actually experiencing are buyers are now making offers, but they're also not necessarily, settling in the same way they were settling a year ago. They're still asking for some repairs. They're asking for some remedy. They're reducing the deposit sizes, um, things of that nature, because the buyers are also realizing they're still paying more than they probably feel that they should pay, which I think is relative to how you really want to look at that. Because ultimately, if they need a home, are you really overpaying? You're never really overpaying for
You
anything.
have to move.
You have to make the move.
I think now is there's no better time to have a professional on your side as a seller to help you navigate, because if you don't price it correctly, we are seeing some homes sit longer, right? Because a couple years ago, a year ago, you could almost price it wherever you wanted and people were just throwing money at you.
Almost no overpricing.
Almost no overpricing, you know what I mean? We aren't seeing as many appraisal gaps. We're not seeing as many waived inspections. We're still seeing them. But if you have a professional to help navigate you on how to get to the closing table, how to get the offer you want, how to still be in control. Because if you overprice even just a little bit in this market now, what we're seeing is you might end up with one offer, you sit on market longer. What does that mean?
Less money.
People want to know what's wrong with it. You now give the buyer the advantage because you have nobody to negotiate against. You can't pull the card, but let me call the second offer because you don't have one.
So even in this seller's market, it's probably just as important now, if not more important, for sellers to have the right real estate professional at their side.
Absolutely. I always say, it's okay if you're a seller. It's okay to interview one or two or three agents. Ask for their stats. Ask if they know their stats. Ask for their reviews. Like, know you're working for a professional, or with a professional, I should say.
What do you guys think are some key factors that are attributing to the prices of houses right now?
Low inventory, lack of inventory.
I was at an appointment yesterday looking at a couple of homes. One of them, if you looked at the valuation according to a few different real estate websites, it was overpriced by maybe about 7 or 8%. And I don't believe the seller was apologetic about that pricing. However, my client walked into this home and felt that this home needed a lot of work and was almost willing to walk out of that house without even considering it. And I think that is a real issue in this market, where now you have a home that maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, pre-COVID, a buyer would walk in and say, I like the layout, I like the bones, I'll make an offer.
Under list price.
Under list price.
Hoping
but
to
now the
negotiate.
buyers are timid about even making an offer on a home they actually would consider, but just maybe not at that price.
Right.
And so what's going to happen is, kind of to what you were saying, is some of these homes, they've been on the market for a while, and what's going to happen is now you're going to start seeing some price reductions happening because the sellers are overpricing in this market based on that data from 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago, rather than working with a professional that understands market conditions and how to price a property based on actual activity. You have to measure data. You have to determine what the absorption rate is. You have to understand what the supply and demand, how that relates to what your pricing should look like today. How many buyers are actually in your market currently, and compared to how many sellers you have in the market. When you look at all this data, you can actually price a property appropriately in any market. It doesn't matter what market you're in.
To your point, pricing a property is critical to sell. And I think that looking at the data can help you determine the range that you want to be in. But I don't know that that's the only thing. Part of it comes from our gut. Being in the business for a while, you have a feeling for how this house is going to sell. And the newer agents, not that I'm against newer agents, but they don't have the same history. And I mean, I've seen more price reductions right now, and I think that even on nice houses, we're seeing the price reductions if they're priced too high. And so I think that you're better off. I think if you look at the statistics, you're better off pricing your house low than you are high.
Yeah,
People will bid it up.
In this market, buyers are almost scared to even make an offer.
People are
if they think
qualified
it's too
for
high.
400. They're not looking at $400,000 houses. They're looking at 375 because they know they're going to have to bid it up a little bit. And if it's priced overpriced, they're just not going to
Not
bid
even
it.
make an
They're not
offer.
even going to look.
They're
Right?
not
They're
even
not
going to
even
make a
come
bid on
because
it.
buyers are savvy. Right? They've been searching online
Right.
probably long before they call the professional. They've looked at pictures. They know they're more educated than we give them credit for, or sellers give them credit for. And I'm a firm believer. I don't think you can underprice a house in this market. People will know what they're looking at,
They'll bid
and
it.
they will bid up. But if it's overpriced, like to Quincy's point, they're just going to walk away.
Not even make an offer.
They're not even going to make an offer because they don't believe. They think someone else will come and offer list price. They're going to like the seller doesn't want to negotiate, and then it sits. And by the time you do the price reduction, that buyer that maybe would have offered has already gone under contract somewhere else.
Well, I've noticed, so a house will sit on the market, no price change for 60 days, or you'll see a price change in 2 weeks. The person who price changes in 2 weeks is a little bit more
Can catch the market.
Catch on the market. Okay, look, we're overpriced. Let's get it down.
Showings have stopped.
Showings have
Time to
stopped.
drop it.
Or no showings.
Or no showings.
You know what I mean? So it's time to drop it. Let's do it quickly. Or it sits for 60 days, and that's skewing the market. You have those one or
And then
two
people
houses.
start thinking maybe something's wrong with it.
Correct.
It's important to be in the right price range to start with. We're talking about being priced too high, but there is a such thing as actually being priced too low. A buyer that's looking at homes, roughly in the $400,000 range, they're going to probably set their parameters maybe to 350 to 450 plus or minus. If you're priced at 300, you're probably never even going to be looked at, right? So
Yes.
in that scenario, there is a such thing as being priced
Too low.
Yeah.
But with that said, it's important to understand that if you can price something too low, then you should also understand that if you're getting the wrong type of buyers, you should always reevaluate. And so a good listing agent is not afraid to actually increase a price in the middle of a listing. I've done it. I know that it works. You can see data showing that this listing should be selling at a certain price point. In some respect, maybe you need to increase that price to get in line with where the market is actually suggesting you would probably sell.
I agree. Definitely all great points from all of you. What do you guys think sellers should be doing to prepare their house for sale in this market?
Aside from hiring an amazing agent.
Step one, hire an amazing agent. Step two, we'll tell them what else to do.
In all seriousness, though, I think price is, of course, number one. And we can give a laundry list of items for any homeowner to do in order to maximize their sale. But also understanding that every home in any condition still has value. So the discussion should be had also, with any homeowner. Here's your price as is. And then if you were to do this improvement or this improvement or this improvement, your after remodel or after renovation value or ARV, is that enough of a profit margin to say I should do that work, or should I sell my home as is? So I never really come to the table and say every seller should do this in order to sell their home. But I will tell them what I think their home could use to compete with others in the price range they desire to sell.
I think on a smaller scale, even if it's not like an actual renovation they want to do, decluttering and deep cleaning their house. You're moving. Pack up all of your stuff. Take off your personal items off the wall. People want to walk into a house and envision putting their stuff there. They can't do that if it's cluttered and it's full of your personal belongings. So that doesn't cost you money. That's getting prepared, which you're going to have to do after you've gone to contractor before. Get more money, maximize your price.
People can't see past the clutter. They can't
cannot
see what things would look like.
And a deep clean, right? What does that say to a buyer? These people took care of their house. Dirty? People are like, well, these people didn't take care of the small things. They didn't take care of the big things.
I mean, you go to buy a car, you find a car that's full of stuff and full of junk. And the guy could be a wrench. I mean, he could fix the car, it could run smooth, but
But it's
you're
dirty.
not paying, but it's dirty. And you go to the used car dealer, and the car is spick and span clean, and
Could be a junk.
it's a junk.
Right.
And you buy the junk as opposed to the guy, the wrench, and it's like, but wait a minute, that's the better car. And so
Windex
having a
goes a long
clean
way.
house is the best money you can spend. If you're going to spend any money, clean your house, declutter it. I tell people, you know, you either sell it, give it away, throw it away.
Good advice.
Sell it, give it away, throw it away. If you're not going to use it, get it gone.
What were those three things again?
Sell it, give it away, throw it away.
And I think some of the easiest in paint, it goes a long way for something people could do themselves. A gallon of paint's what, $30, freshening up a room. I mean, it can make the world of difference.
What does that equate to? Clean.
Yep.
Clean it up.
Freshen it up.
Freshen it up. Paint everything light colors. Just freshen it up. Cleanliness is next to godliness. You know.
Most homeowners will find that over time they become comfortable with the lifestyle that they have. And that could mean, you know, they needed more storage space in their bedroom, for instance. So they buy more dressers than actually fit into the room. But they live with that because they're comfortable. They get used to walking around. They know exactly where to walk in the middle of the night to not stub their toe or bang their knee. But someone coming to look at that home for the first time as a potential buyer, the last thing you want them to do is stub their toe or bang their knee. And so when you talk about decluttering, oftentimes it's the simplest thing of, you know what, take a step back. If you were going to buy this home for the first time and it was set up that way, maybe you would reconsider this property because you'll say, oh, this room feels really, really small. When all it is you have
Too much stuff.
Or oversized stuff that really should probably be, what are those three things again?
Sell it, give it away, throw it away.
And I think when we talk about sellers about staging, it doesn't mean we're going to restage their whole house with a professional stager. We are literally pulling up some carpets, opening some blinds, removing a dresser or two, something small, not an actual entire top to bottom staging where we're bringing in furniture that's not even theirs.
What marketing strategies do you guys think are the most important in this market to get people top dollar?
Pictures. Take decent pictures. How many listings do you see with people that got lousy pictures? I mean, they take them on their phone, dark, shadowy, crooked door. I mean, pictures is a big thing. Taking the right professional pictures is the standard, I guess, that you should be looking for, or at least someone who takes a picture that's decent.
Our job is to get the buyers off of the computer screen into someone's home, and we have a very split second to make that happen. It's like a dating app, right? They're on whatever app they're using, swipe right or swipe left before they save it. Pictures, that's what they're shopping right away. They're not reading the description. They're like getting caught with that first picture, whether they even want to continue.
I think it's important that any homeowner, when they're hiring listing agents, that you actually look at their past listings and look at their photo quality, look at the videos that they've done, if at all. Look at some of that marketing from previous listings that particular agent has done in the past. And I don't necessarily poo-poo on using a cell phone for a photo. I mean, if an agent is using a flip phone from 15 years ago to take pictures of the listing, that I think that would be, underselling the property. But I think if someone is using, an iPhone 12 plus, whatever the latest models are, and they understand how to operate the tool that they're using. Not everyone that has an iPhone knows how to use an iPhone, by the way. Not everyone that has, the latest Galaxy knows how to use it. But if they can demonstrate expertise in the tools that they're operating or using, then by all means, it's usable. Very usable. I mean, I've shot some footage from an iPhone that you would think I brought in the most expensive Canons out there. So it's all about, understanding how to use the tools that you have. However, beyond just the photos, I did mention video. I think video is key in this market. It's important to provide full motion video tours. So a lot of people tend to use a bunch of photos. They might stitch them together in what's called a photo slideshow, have music playing in the background. You think it's a video tour, but what it is you're looking at the same photos you saw in the MLS or on one of the major real estate websites, but now there's music to it. You know, if you put your own music on and play this and look at the photos later, if that's what appeals to you. What you really want to know is, how does the home flow? When you walk from one room to the next room, where's the doorway from that room to that room? How big is the closet? How big is the bathroom? What do the faucets look like? Open the refrigerator. And these are all things you can put into a video that you can't necessarily put into the photos because we're limited how many photos we actually can use in many of the websites out there.
What are some common challenges sellers might encounter when going through the sale process?
I think one of the biggest challenges a homeowner encounters is not being told up front what they can expect. And then they're caught off guard. For instance, you should be getting, as a seller, a net proceed sheet at the very, very beginning, showing approximately what you're going to realize from the sale of your home based on, an approximation of what the sale price should be, and also considering and factoring in what potential home inspection issues might come up, putting all that in your bottom line so that you aren't getting to halfway through the transaction and your deal falling apart because you didn't expect to have to come out of pocket for an additional $2,000-3,000 for repairs, or you get to the point of the closing table and you realize that you have less money that you thought you were going to have, and now you're struggling to pull up the balance of the cash you thought you needed to buy the next home you're buying into. I love how you just said your next home that you're buying into. So ultimately, having accurate information in the beginning, I think, guarantees a smoother transaction.
What I try and tell my sellers right up front from the first time, my job in this really is your negotiator, right? And that where I'm going to negotiate for you, where problems could come up, are firstly the offer, then at inspections, then possibly is there an appraisal gap? Is there going to be an appraisal issue? Letting them know that we're here to negotiate where there could be pitfalls in this transaction from start to finish. Because there's many times it's just you think it's going to go smooth and it doesn't.
So you'd say educating them up front.
Educating up front, letting them know
really
what the
important.
process, sitting down for a very thorough listing appointment and explaining what the process from start to finish. Now, we don't know what the bumps are going to be, but if we can give them a heads up where they may occur, then when they do occur, they're prepared. Like, hey, I let you know this may happen. I let you know this, but I'm here to negotiate it for you.
I find most sellers, if you can anticipate potential pitfalls as you just described, and you talk about those things up front, they never feel like a pitfall or an issue or deal breaker when they actually happen because you kind of walked into that eyes wide open and you are prepared for the worst. One of the things I do, even at the point of getting offers coming in, part of the negotiation is I have created a side by side spreadsheet that shows every single offer that I have in front of me, and it shows how much money is being offered, what are the deposit amounts on each of the ones, what kind of financing, are there closing costs attached to this, when are they going to close, so that we can see all of these things going in. And then I'll start talking about things like appraisal, because just because you have the highest offer doesn't necessarily mean that that's the number you are going to get. And sometimes it's important to actually tell the seller, we're going to accept this offer, but what if this appraisal came in at this number? Would you still be okay with this offer, or would you prefer to take that offer over there? Something that's a little bit more solid within the actual range of what homes are selling for.
So again, it's the education up front, just prepare them for what might come about.
Absolutely.
And this comes about by having experienced and seasoned agents.
I have this same spreadsheet with all the deals going across and all that stuff. So I'm with Quincy on that.
Great. Can you guys share any successful stories or tips that you've that has come about when you're working with sellers?
I have one story I'll share. Actually, I have quite a few, but here's one where I walked into the home, and the home, as is probably worth about $230,000. The reason they hired me is because they wanted to buy a home out of state. They fell in love with it, and they had a very short amount of time to get that offer accepted. I showed them an opportunity to get their home renovated, include it into their added the value into their list price. They didn't have to worry about paying for those repairs until the home sold. The home ended up selling for $310,000 after putting in about $20,000 worth of work. That seller was ecstatic because they were able to buy their dream home. We have a product through Revive that is essentially what this program is about, where you're able to renovate a property pre-listing. You don't have to pay for the renovation work until the property closes, and you get to sell your home at a premium that's much higher than what you probably would have sold for if you were selling it as is. It's a win-win for everyone. There's no interest attached to the renovation work. It's just you pay real cost for whatever the renovation costs, and you're done with it.
How do you guys think the choice of a real estate agent impacts the sale of a property? Experience of the agent, knowledge of the agent.
Well, knowing the market is critical. Knowing what houses are selling for, all that stuff, and a lot of that stuff is available. I don't know that many agents actually look into it. It's
Ask the seller what they want to
ask
pay.
them what they want to pay, what do you want to sell for, and they sell it for that. So knowing the market, what stuff is going on, is critical to maximizing your pricing out there. And I think having some experience helps with that.
Yeah, having an agent that has time to work for you is important also. And I'm not suggesting that an agent that maybe has a part-time job or anything of that nature can't actually be an effective agent for you. But I am saying if they do have a part-time job, you should ask the question and maybe talk about what hours they might be able to devote to that particular listing, or even working with buyers for that matter. How much time will you actually have to work with the buyer? I think that's critical in this market because I find oftentimes a lot of agents that actually do have a part-time job of working alongside of as a real estate agent, and that's perfectly fine as long as it's disclosed, and you ask about it and you talk about it to find out how that schedule will work with you or conflict with you. If their schedule works perfectly for you as a homeowner, then by all means hire them, I suppose. But if it completely conflicts, maybe you should rethink that also.
Looking to hiring a full-time agent with some experience.
Absolutely.
Well, I also think experience plays into it is to help you strategically place yourself in this market, right? So we talked about pricing too high, pricing too low, but we also don't have a crystal ball. So we can educate what we think is right, but even we might get it wrong. How do you plan and have that conversation when you need to price drop? When should you price drop? Why should you price drop? Is price drop the right thing? Or when problems arise, something comes up at inspections, do you have the experts to call? Like if you're doing this and you have experience, we've worked with professionals in other fields that will take our calls. We know who to get there quickly to resolve those issues. We know what lenders we've worked with that will maybe get the deal across the finish table, or even realtors that are going to get across the finish line. We've been in this selling and knowing, so, and we're not maybe going to get as beat up by an experienced agent on the other side because we also have expertise we bring to the table.
I recall a situation where I had a listing that I did raise the price on. We were getting offers and we were being undercut on many of the offers, and the home needed some work. But I also looked at the uniqueness of the property. It was a very unique property. It had over 11 acres, and there was really nothing like it within 15, 20 miles. So no appraiser is going to go into town and find something that sold within the last 6 months, 1 year, or even 2 years that would compare with this particular property. So when you have an agent that understands the uniqueness of certain properties, they also understand how to adjust and consider out of market areas to actually put an appropriate price on your home. And we ultimately raised the price, and I had a lot of agents call me asking, what do you think you're doing? You can't raise the listing price. I'm like, yes, I can. And I still end up selling it for above asking price at that point. And I looked out of state. I looked out of in New York. I looked in New Jersey. I looked in Massachusetts. This was the home in Connecticut. And ultimately, I had to sell the appraiser at the same time. You don't get this kind of experience from just selling a couple of houses a year. You have to do this
All time matters again.
Yeah, over a period of time to understand what an appraiser is probably looking for and understand what the different nuances are and the uniqueness of the listing that you may have and how maybe even stepping out of your market. Some agents, they're afraid to go outside of the neighborhood. Sometimes you have to do that. You don't know how to do that if you haven't done this enough times.
There's also different loan types, right? So there's FHA, VA, conventional. After selling enough homes, you kind of get a feel like your house could maybe go FHA or VA, and other people are telling you it can't, right? Like there's nothing wrong with either of those loan products. They're very good loan products. You just need an agent to understand, can it go? Is it gonna pass an appraisal in its current condition?
Mm.
And if not, what does it need to get there? Now, we don't have the appraisal's brain in our head, so they may pick out something we wouldn't. But for the most part, we know. You know, if I'm selling Don's house and it's pretty okay to go VA and we get the best offers VA, and I'm not scared of it because I know it's okay.
Well, this is where having the spreadsheet showing all the offers on it is very helpful. I mean, just because you got a VA loan doesn't make it. They're an excellent product.
Absolutely,
It's an
they're
excellent
a
product.
great
I like
loan
veterans.
product. I love them too.
I think we all do and should.
and the product is good. People that don't understand it may be scared of it. The
Yeah, right.
experts that have worked with it and know that it's an amazing product know how to get their seller the best deal by simply explaining nothing's going to come up at appraisal that we can't handle here.
Right. That's it. I mean, the appraisal's another jumping point for the transaction. So to your point, knowing what could come up is beneficial, and how to handle it is also beneficial.
I would love to give a shout out to VA and FHA loans in this in this short video, simply because I grew up in this career with probably about 75% of my deals being VA, having worked in a market that had a naval sub base down in Connecticut. What I would like to say about that, though, is this: in the market we are in right now, the VA and the FHA buyers, I think, were stepped on in this market because there were so many buyers buying for one property. You get the cash buyers and you get the conventional buyers, and automatically the listing agent would assume that that must be the offer we should take because they want to have the path with the least resistance to their closing table, not understanding fully how amazing a VA or an FHA buyer could be. So what I'm also seeing now is the VA and FHA buyer, they're actually offering you probably more than what the conventional and cash buyers are willing to offer. So if your agent understands that product, intimately understands it, and they can explain that to you, I think it's worth giving serious consideration in this market, because if you really want to sell for the highest amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of headache, a lot of times it may turn out to be the buyer that's going to be the most grateful that you've accepted their offer. And oftentimes those are government loan buyers.
So again, it goes back to experience, educating our sellers on the different loan products at this point.
Absolutely.